Hi everyone, Emma here, also known as 8vinyllow, bringing all of you another video. Today's video is going to be a vinyl haul, vinyl pickups video slash VC meetup discussion slash welcome back announcement. A lot of different things going on in this video, but I'm so excited to be making this for a variety of reasons. So I'm going to kind of jump right into it and tell the backstory of this video a little bit. On Saturday, I took a quick little day trip to Indiana to visit a couple of my favorite people in the entire world, and that is Jeff Kempin and his wife, Cor. Now, if the name Jeff Kempin sounds familiar to you, you might be part of what I refer to as the old VC. This is a term that I've jokingly and very loosely used over the last year or so, kind of reminiscing and feeling nostalgic about when I first started making videos 5 years ago. Now, that's not the old VC by any means. We're not talking about like Mr. Brandon, Mr. Hall of Fame, or people that have been doing this for like 15 years. But when I say the old VC, I am referring to the vinyl community that I knew and the vinyl community that was around and the people that were around when I first started making videos 5 years ago now. And I'm still talking in a camera. Okay. I love you guys. Anyway, so Jeff Kempin, if you aren't familiar, some of you are. If you aren't familiar, though, he was very active in the vinyl community about 5 years ago as well. I think he even started before me, was making videos before me, but when I first started, he was very supportive of me and the channel, and we ended up forming a bond and connection. We connected over a variety of different things and bonded over different things. First off, we're both from the Chicagoland area, and so of course we bonded over that, but one of the major areas, especially musically, that we bonded over is the blues. And we connected right away with that, and our friendship evolved, and we did different meetups and estate sale digging, record store digging. I got to know him and his family, his wife, Cor. I love them so much, extremely well. And for the last 5 years, we've just developed a wonderful friendship. I consider them family. They are some of my favorite people in the whole world. I would do anything for them. So with that said, he's back. He's back making videos. He took a break. His life, I know things have been busy on his end. He's been busy with work and other things like that, but he is back. So that is also why I wanted to make this video. So if you do not know Jeff, I'm going to link his channel down below. Please go check him out. Give him a sub. Give him some love. Welcome him back. I'm so excited to see a video from him. When I saw him post a video earlier, I was like, this is the best day, best day ever. So go check him out, go check out the video, but he posted a video of a recent record haul. So, and this was a record haul that I went with him to do. So on Saturday, took a trip to Indiana, visited with Jeff and Cor, and then I kicked Jeff's butt into gear, and I said, we got to go record shopping, because I think he had told me that it had been a year since he'd even been in a record store. I know he hasn't been listening a lot. He hasn't been playing out. We're trying to get that back. So go tell him down below to keep doing. We are enablers here in the vinyl community. That is what we do. So I put on my enabler Emma badge, as I do, as it were, as all those things. And, we went digging, and he had a fantastic haul. Now, I also have a mini haul for myself. He had me beat yesterday, but rightfully so. But I have a haul here as well that I want to showcase. So you can see Jeff's haul, again, linked down below. Go check out that video. But I do have a haul and some records that I want to share with you all today. So we went to a couple of stores. The first store that we went to was S&J Records in Griffith, Indiana. Very neat store. The owner was super cool. He asked if I was a Cheap Trick fan. I think I was talking to Jeff about Cheap Trick, and we had a discussion about him going to see a show and almost like dying at a Cheap Trick show or something. People were throwing stuff. I forget the whole story. It was really fun though, and the selection was great, so I ended up walking out with a handful of records there. The first album that I picked up, now I have very recently been really getting into Jethro Tull. And part of this is because I went to go see Martin Barre, the Martin Barre Band, and I was just absolutely blown away. Now, obviously, I knew going in, I kind of know Jethro Tull a little bit. I would call myself a very casual fan, but I went going in, I mean, I knew he's an incredible guitarist. I mean, the guitar riff on Aqualung is one of the most iconic riffs of all time. And so, which shout out to Bill at the Vinyl Verse for kind of telling me to go to that show. I was back and forth on it, but long story short, I was blown away by it. And one of the highlights of the night for me was their live rendition and version of Teacher. And so I knew that it's been a while since I've been in a record store. I was like, next time I go, I'm going to grab Benefit. So I did. So I ended up grabbing some early Tull here. This is Jethro Tull's Benefit from 1970. Now this is this version that I have here, as you can tell by the label, is a later reissue. I would say, I think when I looked this up, it was like 73, 74, but still sounds incredible. It does have Teacher on here. Now it is the US version. I know that the UK version of Teacher and the US version is slightly different. I think there's an added flute, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. I know my Tull people out there will tell me everything that I need to know in detail about this album. But it's funny, I love that song. I always enjoy Teacher being a teacher, right? And so I know a lot of those teachers, hot for teacher. Anyway, so, okay. But Teacher, I've always liked that song, but the live version that the Martin Barre Band did reeled me in. And then you go to listen to the studio version, you're like, oh, that's good, but that was not what the live version sounded like. So, I mean, we're here on YouTube. Go into the little, the search bar, the search bar. Go into the YouTube search bar, type in Martin Barre Band. That's kind of funny. Anyway, type in Martin Barre Band, Teacher live, and just watch their live rendition, their version of that song. Blows the studio version out of the water, but the studio version's an absolute classic too. So anyway, enough of my blabbering. Benefit, Jethro Tull, added this into the collection. All right, also grabbed, and I'm excited about this. Now, yes, my Bob Mould Husker Du people, you guys know how much I love Bob. You guys know how much I love Husker Du. I did not have this on vinyl. So, and that is their sellout record. I'm kidding, kind of. I love this record though. Husker Du, this is New Day Rising. I believe this came out, when did this come out originally? 85? 84, 85. This one came out after Zen Arcade. This is their third studio album. They released their EP, then they put out Zen Arcade, and then this album, and then after this album, you get Flip Your Wig, which is my personal favorite Husker Du album, and that's when you really kind of start to venture away from what Zen Arcade was and sounded like. Zen Arcade is that very, very hardcore punk. So is this album, but this album is, they start to evolve away from that sound a little bit. They have slower tempos on here. It's a little more melodic, but I enjoy that a lot. And in fact, I think Steve Carlson is another huge Bob Mould Husker Du fan. We know Steve here in the VC. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I remember him saying that this is his favorite Husker Du record. I would say mine, it's so hard. It depends on the mood, because they're all, like, even though they're all Husker Du and you know they're Husker Du, they're all still so different, in my opinion. Zen Arcade is so different from Flip Your Wig, and is so different from New Day Rising. And this one being in between Flip Your Wig and Zen Arcade is fascinating, because it really does sound like a record in between those two records. I mean, it is like that bridge between the two. So, anyway, music nerd in me, but that's why we're here. But I did not own this record. I apologize. Bad joke. I Apologize is one of my favorite Husker Du songs. Celebrated Summer is on here. What else is on here? A New Day Rising, obviously. Perfect Example. I Don't Know What You're Talking About. How to Skin a Cat. What You Drinkin'. Plans I Make. Really solid album. Yeah, 1985. SST Records. The next record that I picked up at SNJ, now this is a band that, again, I'm very casual with. I will stream, I will listen to, but I have told myself I really need to dedicate time and start building up this collection because I always enjoy them when I listen to them. And Jeff is really into this band, and so when we were there, I said, Jeff, what album should I get? If I get one, and I was looking for a particular one, which I'll get into that story here in a second. But I asked Jeff, I said, which one should I get? And I knew what he was going to say. I think he had a couple of ideas. We went to the selection. They didn't have a whole lot, but how can you not start with this album? And of course, I'm talking about XTC's Skylarking. This is their 9th studio album, so it comes a little later, but this is one of their most well-known, if not their most well-known, and one of the top albums of the 1980s. I think this one is 85, 86. I know someone will correct me down below, but this version that I have here is the 200-gram super heavyweight vinyl edition. Mixes by Steven Wilson. It sounds phenomenal. So, XTC Skylarking, this is a fascinating album. It's unbelievable. It's so good. So good. It's kind of a multi-genre album. The first half of this album is very poppy, very pop-centric, and then it kind of gets into more an experimental side. And the backstory on this album is fascinating too, from like a music geek, music nerd perspective. It was produced by Todd Rundgren, and it's kind of interesting to read about the disagreements that Todd and Andy Partridge had with this album, and like different singles and just things with the track listing. And so anyway, I love that kind of stuff. I love albums with great stories, and I think this one definitely is one of those, and just a phenomenal album at that. So XTC finally building up that collection, that catalog in my collection, so you'll definitely probably be seeing more XTC maybe later on in this video too, but can't go wrong with throwing in Skylarking as the first one. So grabbed that. This is for my winter thrashers out there. If you know, you know, winter I've really been digging into over the last few months, thrash metal. I know I've been talking to Chris Prophy about it. He has we have jokingly, I've coined all of the albums and songs that he sent me as my Prophy playlist. So he's definitely a go-to. I know Trevor at Flat Round and Spun, Anthony Gambler 812, we talk about this. Richard S. has been on the live streams talking about winter thrashing, which everybody go tell Richard S. it is winter thrash season. To go pick up some Metallica. Go get something. And in fact, go pick up Ride the Lightning, because I just did. I just did. Now, although thrash is kind of new to me, I know some of the big songs, right? If I put together a thrash playlist of all the hit top songs, I'm going to know 90% of them. Once you start digging into specific albums and some deeper cuts and some more obscure bands, that's where I start to get lost, and that's where I'm trying to kind of expand my knowledge a little bit more. But Metallica has always been a band outside of winter thrash season that I love. I already had 5 or 6 Metallica albums in my collection. Love Metallica, but out of all of the Metallica that I have in my collection, all of these records here in my record room, I did not have Ride the Lightning, which on the hype sticker, it specifically states, and I'll let you guys argue about this, but it specifically states that this album is the #1 thrash metal album of all time. So, but it's kind of, for those that have watched some of the live streams and things that I've been part of and have hosted, winter thrashing, but then also the fact that I didn't own Ride the Lightning has become kind of like an inside joke. So, long story short, out of the winter thrashing season story, finally have Ride the Lightning on vinyl, recorded in Copenhagen, recorded fairly quickly. This is definitely a move away from Kill 'Em All, the sound that they had in Kill 'Em All. This redefined, but then also defined and solidified the Metallica sound. And just what an incredible album. Obviously, you have For Whom the Bell Tolls on here, Fade to Black, Creeping Death, and so on. It does not get better than that. Call of Cthulhu is on here, which you, if you're watching, which 1000% you are, but shout out, you know who you are. But Ride the Lightning, so good. Winter thrash season continues. You will probably be seeing more thrash coming into my collection, so if you have any recommendations, definitely let me know down below, but it continues. And again, everybody go find Richard S. and tell him to pick up some Metallica. The second and final store that we went to was Crown Point Records in Crown Point, Indiana. Now that store, the first store was good. This store was the selection, and again, sometimes it's the luck of the draw with new arrivals. The new arrivals was just fantastic. The selection was amazing. I have very positive things to say about Crown Point Records. So if you have not gone to visit, but you're in the area or you're passing by, definitely go check them out. They had a great selection. I think Jeff went crazy at that store. I know I did. There was so much blues. Jeff even mentioned like the owner as we were going through, and I think maybe somebody brought in a collection, but there were more blues albums at this store than like in Chicago, and you would think Chicago blues. So with Jeff and I being blues people, we were definitely impressed by that selection. But yeah, incredible store, Crown Point Records in Crown Point, Indiana. Getting into the pickups now, I only grabbed one record. This is a store that I probably could have spent 2 hours in digging, going through the crates, going under, really getting into the nitty-gritty of everything, but we just didn't have enough time to do that. But I did walk away with one record, and funny enough, this album was the one album that I had like on my want list for the day. Very rarely do I walk into a record store like with an album in mind. Usually I just see an album that I know like, hey, that's something that I've wanted. But this was one that earlier that morning, I was having a conversation with my friend Peter we were talking about something I posted on Instagram, I think talking about like closing tracks or just tracks on albums, really good stuff. And he had mentioned the album English Settlement by XTC. So I told him specifically, I said, I'm gonna try to find that album today. Well, when we went to the first store, English Settlement was not there, so I got Skylarking. The second store, right up front, staring right at me when I walk over to that section, right up front in the bins, was indeed XTC's English Settlement. So I did pick this up. Peter said that he's had his copy for like a billion years. This is finally have it in the collection, but I love the story behind that, especially having talked about this album that day. So English Settlement, this came out before Skylarking. I think this is their 4th or 5th studio album, so early 80s, 81, 82. And really, Skylarking, English Settlement, one or two other XTCs I'd say would be the essential ones. Let me know down below, again, what XTC records I should pick up outside of these two, but I'm very excited to have this in the collection. But the big song off of here that Peter and I were talking about is Snowman. So, great XTC record. Again, this says so I was right. 1982 came out before that, but very excited to have this essential XTC in the collection. The last album that I'm going to show, I did not buy. This was gifted to me by Jeff. And quick little backstory about this. When we were in the car, we were jamming out to the Beano record. We love that record. John Mayall and the Blues Breakers with Eric Clapton. As you can see, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. So we were listening to that, and the conversation kind of shifted towards talking about blues. And I had mentioned, I said, out of the 3 kings of the blues, B.B. King, Albert King, Freddy King, I have such a connection, for whatever reason, this draw towards Freddy King. Love all of them, but Freddy King I always have this draw towards. I pull his albums the most. And an essential blues album, one of the greatest electric blues albums of all time, in my opinion, is Freddy King's Getting Ready. It's also an extremely hard album to find. And when you do find it, it's either beat up or it's super expensive. I could never afford that. Especially when I see them, unless it was like super beat up, right? It's $100 plus record. I think Analog Productions put out one, but still very expensive. I think that's even out of print now. Long story short, so I mentioned this, we were talking about Freddy King. We go to Crown Point Records. He tells me he has a surprise and a gift for me. What did he find there? He found one of my top records on my want list. This has been up there for me for years. he found Freddy King's Getting Ready. This was put out in 1971. Again, I would argue one of the greatest electric blues albums period, of all time. Getting Ready. This was put out on the Shelter Records label. You can see that little Superman thing there, which is Leon Russell's record label. Fun fact for you there. But it has one of the coolest, nastiest in a good way songs of all time, which is called Going Down. If you have not heard that song, go into the search bar, type in Freddy King, Going Down, and get ready for your mind to just explode. Mine explodes every single time. So he found this copy. Now, as you can see, right, the cover's a little bit worn. It does have a seam split that I'm going to have to do some like Dr. Emma stuff to. But the record itself was extremely clean, and just what an amazing gift. So again, so many great moments yesterday between the XTCs, between the Freddy Kings, between Jeff coming back and making a video, all these great things happening. I just wanted to pop on and share these stories and pickups with everybody. So again, thank you to Jeff and Core. I love you guys so much. You know that, for being gracious hosts as always, for inviting me over. Jeff, for letting me enable you and pull you back into the addicting world of record collecting. But that's all I have for this video. I'm probably not going to make another video. In fact, I know I'm not going to make another video before the new year, so I hope that all of you have an amazing new year, and I will definitely see you guys very soon. But with that, everybody, that is all for this video. I hope that all of you are doing well, and I will see you all for my next video. Bye, guys.